Good morning. Thank you very much to everybody that tunes into Fiifi-Manfred. So once upon a time, there was Chelsea, brilliant club, doing good stuff. And then, of course, the club got sold to the Americans. And then all of a sudden, almost after every international break, there's something to discuss about how inconsistent the team is. It's a new club, and the Roman Abramovich was a brilliant club, was doing all the good things that you expect from clubs to do. But there's a lot of inconsistency. But you see, essentially, when inconsistency sets in into a team, it is expected, especially when the team is a young team. This is exactly what we're going to talk about today. A lot about Chelsea, the updates, Mauricio Pochettino's comments after the game, his threats that his players were not going to get a days off. And now this morning we are hearing from the Sun and a lot of the outlets that the team actually has 2 days off. What do you make of stuff like that? Again, the conversation about the next games are going to be on the horizon. There is also big conversation. The bed is beginning to whisper that maybe Pochettino may be sacked, maybe when Stanley Vivell and then Joe Schultz are beginning to grow a little bit uncomfortable about Mauricio Pochettino, and they feel that maybe he's not going to be the right man to lead the team going forward. I'll tell you, there are a lot of myths to debunk, but it's your best place to have it all. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. Thank you very much for choosing us. Like I always do, thank you to everybody from the guys in Kenya, in Zambia, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, UK, US, everybody that's using onto the show. I'm grateful. You can continue the conversation on Twitter. My handle is Fiifi_Manfred. On Facebook, Fiifi-Manfred. On YouTube, Fiifi-Manfred. I'm grateful to have you. Of course, on TikTok as well. I'm in there. If there is business, you can contact me on my mail. I'll be back with you with all the juice. Bye. So there are 3 things that essentially are the things that are there with respect to Chelsea. First of all, January is on the horizon, and everybody begins to ask the question, do Chelsea need to go ahead and break the bank for a striker? And these questions always come up after defeats, after when Chelsea do not get the maximum point, especially in a game like Newcastle. And people ask themselves these questions. Should Ivan Toney come in January? Should Victor Osimhen come in January? But you see, this is not an issue of striking or goals. It has nothing to do with that. I think that essentially it is just the team being in a state where they are just going through a patchy period. And it is one game that you knew that Chelsea didn't actually put in a fight. Now, if you ask me between Osimhen and then Ivan Toney, who should I choose? Osimhen is younger. Osimhen, for me, is one of the best strikers that you can get. He's going to gel with the team. But as Chelsea need another player that comes from abroad and doesn't really understand how they want to play, when the team cohesion isn't even there yet, when they're already struggling, somebody will say, then fine, you go and get Ivan Toney from Brentford to come and get a job done. Ivan has been out of football for a very long time. Yes, he has been training, but is he match fit? Can he solve Chelsea's immediate problems of goal scoring? By essentially, does Chelsea even have problems of goal scoring? What do you make of stuff like this? And I think that these conversations will always come up. It will always creep up. If you had watched the game against Newcastle, you probably would have seen an image of Mauricio Pochettino and then Joe Schultz in the stands, where at some point when Chelsea went down by a 0-0, Pochettino had covered his mouth or the lower part of his face with something, essentially trying to prevent people from seeing his demeanor, not to know how exactly his facial appearance is. It was in the light of this that right after the game, he went full ballistic in the media and called his players soft. He called them weak. He called them playing like they had nothing to fight for. And he questioned essentially the mentality of his players. Funny enough, this is the first time seeing Mauricio Pochettino do this. He has never, not for one, since he became Chelsea manager, threw his players, not necessarily throw his players under the bus, but ask questions of them, ask questions of their mentality. He has never done that. But for the first time, he did. And I think that these things ought to be done. It's a young team. It's an inconsistent team. It's a team that would take a long time. In fact, the whole season to gel. You see, it is not a problem when you beat sides like Arsenal, Tottenham Hotspur, Manchester City, because there are going to be time and space for you to deal with them. And once you have quality, you can play against them. But the bigger question is when you play against the young, ragged, boogie, combative, aggressive side like Brentford. You watch the Arsenal game against Brentford and you realize that Arsenal has come so much of age. They know when to go into battles, when not to go into battles, when to pick competitive duels and fights in games, when not to do that, when to just wait for openings to thrive in. And that's something that Mikel Arteta has been able to imbibe into his team in the last few years that he has been there. And Chelsea will get there. They will get there because, you see, it is just a project. I have said consistently that there is no team with the quality Chelsea has now. I know that you don't just throw money around to build a squad. And that's exactly what the team needs to go through, the process that they are going through, to enable them to get together, to have some cohesion, to go as a group, to have a close-knitted group that fights for something common for themselves. And it is in that direction that they are going through. Now, you see, this morning, I've seen a publication from The Mirror where one of Chelsea's youngest midfielders, Alex Mattox, who is just 19 years of age, from the Chelsea Academy, after the game, apparently the core of the team, the senior team, were in the dressing room at Newcastle for well over an hour. Apparently, it was ballistic in that room. Not just Mauricio Pochettino being angry at the team in the media, but then the players themselves went full ballistic at each other. Literally, that player pointing accusing fingers at that player, asking questions on himself, asking why they couldn't put up a fight and why they should put up a fight going in subsequent games, especially when they're playing against teams like this. Mind you, there's going to be Everton on the horizon, Everton away. Chelsea hardly win at Everton. It's a tough game for them to play in there. Now, when you play against this side where you need to be boogie, you need to be aggressive, you need to win combative duels in the middle of the park, and you need to control the game. And that's the big deal. When you play against teams like Newcastle, you ought to control. Because you watch that game in Newcastle, were just hoofing long balls up top. They knew they were going to win the second balls. Jamal Lascelles was up there. Fabian Schär was up there. Everybody in that Newcastle team wanted to win an extra long ball, because that is what you do when you play against teams like Chelsea, who, when you know that when they chase second balls, they're going to lose their shape, they're going to lose their structure, they're going to have issues dealing with such balls, and then you want to make sure that you get this thing done. So that was it. But it is part of the process. And when I have seen people say that it is time for Pochettino to go, and that there are questions about Mauricio Pochettino, and I ask myself, why? Again, there's nothing wrong with how Mauricio Pochettino is building the squad. It's in the right direction. These times are always going to come. Trust me, if you're a Chelsea fan and you believe that Chelsea were going to just turn the corner and then go ahead and play Champions League and win the Champions League in just a year, you're probably delusional. That is something that you're not supposed to be thinking. It was always going to be a process. If you followed me on here and if you subscribe to the channel, you've turned on notifications, and then you consistently get the content I put out, you know that I've said several times that it is probably going to take a while. This season, don't even think about the top 4, maybe 5th, 6th position, because it's a journey, and you don't just turn it around like that. It's going to take some time. But when you do, that's when the team becomes a formidable force. And Mauricio Pochettino is a project manager. He is expert in dealing with players of this nature, young players who need some nurturing, players who haven't seen it at the top before, and he's able to guide them to get to wherever they are going to. Right, so what kind of project will it be if you sack Mauricio Pochettino today and then you bring in another project manager to start the whole cycle again, especially when the team has issues with cohesion? They have issues with having a common goal in between them. Now, the team balance seems to be perfect. There's some very good number of French players, talking about Leslie Ugochukwu, Axel Desassi, Benoit Belachile, Wesley Fofana. Then you go and talk about the Spanish guys, the guys that speak Spanish and Portuguese, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Marco Correa, Robert Sanchez, Thiago Silva, then the English-speaking boys as well, the French-speaking boys as well. So it's a host of nationals who have come together to be in that direction. And I consistently feel that it is just a matter of time. If there's any publication elsewhere that tells you that, oh, Pochettino is under pressure, Poch is never under any pressure. He is not going to be under any pressure this season unless results become so bad and unbearable. He's not going to be under any pressure. He is essentially going to go ahead and stabilize the ship, and they will give him time. They will review his performances at the end of the season. I think that in that game, even his absence on the touchline was worrying to the squad, because it's a young squad. The coach's absence on the touchline may be worrying, and it did worry the players. So these are some of the things you look at. For me, Chelsea lost the game on the lack of mental fortitude from some of the players. Like Reece James, he's captain of the side. He's Chelsea boy through and through, from the academy, English boy. How do you lose your head? You cannot just lose your head, especially in times like that when you're leading these people. And it's because the team lacks leadership. Even the most experienced of this team lack leadership. The captain lacks leadership. Conor Gallagher, who's also a captain on the side, is not experienced. Maybe Thiago Silva, but he also had a bad day on that day for Chelsea Football Club. So some of these things are some of the reasons why you look at it and you're like, okay, maybe we need to take a pause. Maybe it's not as if Chelsea is that bad, but essentially it's just because Chelsea aren't in a good place and then they are going to come good. So, yeah, it's just by way of updates and everything that's going with Chelsea. Training is going to resume tomorrow on Tuesday. I think Pochettino still gave them the day off after all the bragging. Monday off, Sunday off for the boys. There's going to be training on Tuesday when other teams are playing in the Champions League. There's going to be game over the weekend. The hope is trying to get back into winning ways. It's going to be a tough deal for Chelsea, but they have to try and get it done. Now resumes as a red card means Malo Gusto will be returning. Marco Correa looks like he's not going to play well. He also has an extra yellow card. He will be out. On the left-hand side, looks like Levi Cole will be coming in, and then maybe Moise Caicedo will be seen. I think that Enzo Fernandez should be rested. Maybe Kanu Chukwuemeka, if he's fully fit, or Romeo Lavia comes in, and then Chelsea sees as they play from there. But this was a game where Cole Palmer wasn't good on the day. And I think in such games, you need more than just Cole Palmer. I've said it several times. You see, so if you go back to my video where I said Conor Gallagher will be useless once Kanu Chukwuemeka and Romeo Lavia are back, this is exactly what I wanted to see. In games like this, when you're playing against low blocks, you need an extra person. And Conor is not a guy. You need a Chukwuemeka or you need a Romeo Lavia in there. Raheem Sterling, there are issues about him. But mind you, you don't just call out on people just because they had a bad day. We all do have bad days at the office. So, yeah. Guys, this is where time will allow me. My name again is Fiifi-Manfred. Thank you very much for your audience. If you've not subscribed to the channel, you should do so now. If you've watched the video to this extent, you should do so. Turn on notifications, and in the notification, do choose all. I'll see you.